The sun beat down on the busy streets of Lagos, casting a warm glow over the crowded market stalls and vibrant street life. The smell of fried plantains and suya wafted through the air, mingling with the sounds of honking cars and chattering pedestrians. Phillips, a billionaire young man, navigated his sleek car through the traffic, his eyes scanning the pedestrians and vendors as he drove. Suddenly, his gaze landed on a familiar face, his old university girlfriend, Cynthia, hawking groundnuts on the side of the road. Phillips's heart skipped a beat as he slammed on the brakes, his car screeching to a halt. He stared at Cynthia, his mind racing with questions. What was she doing here? Why had she dropped out of school? The memories of their time together in university flooded back, and Phillips felt a pang of guilt and regret. He remembered the late-night study sessions, the laughter, and the dreams they had shared. What had happened to the bright, ambitious student he once knew? As Phillips watched Cynthia, he noticed the worn-out basket of groundnuts in front of her, the tired look in her eyes, and the faint smile on her face. She seemed to be struggling to make ends meet, and Phillips's curiosity turned to concern. He wondered what had led her to this point, and whether she was happy with her life. Phillips's driver, noticing his boss's distraction, cleared his throat and asked if everything was okay. Phillips nodded, still staring at Cynthia, and instructed his driver to pull over. He got out of the car and approached Cynthia, his heart pounding in his chest. The smell of fried groundnuts wafted through the air as Phillips stood in front of Cynthia, his shadow casting a silhouette on the ground. Cynthia looked up, her eyes locking onto Phillips's, and for a moment, they just stared at each other, the world around them melting away. Phillips felt a rush of emotions, surprise, guilt, and longing. He had often thought about Cynthia since their university days, wondering what had become of her. And now, here she was, standing in front of him, her eyes sparkling with a mix of emotions. As Phillips gazed at Cynthia, he noticed the changes in her appearance. Her hair was styled differently, and her skin seemed to have lost its radiant glow. But her eyes still sparkled with the same fire that had drawn him to her in university. Phillips felt a pang of regret, wondering if he had played a role in her current situation. The encounter between Phillips and Cynthia was unexpected, but it sparked a chain of events that would change their lives forever. Phillips's decision to approach Cynthia and learn more about her life after university would lead to a journey of self-discovery and redemption, as he confronted the consequences of his choices and the impact on their relationship. As Phillips stood in front of Cynthia, he felt a mix of emotions swelling inside him. He was shocked to see her hawking groundnuts on the side of the road. And he couldn't help but wonder what had led her to this point. Cynthia, on the other hand, seemed to be frozen in place, her eyes locked onto Phillips's face. The world around them melted away as they stood there, the only sound being the hum of the traffic and the chatter of the pedestrians. Phillips's driver, noticing the tension, discreetly stepped back, giving his boss some space. Phillips took a deep breath and broke the silence. He asked Cynthia how she was doing, his voice barely above a whisper. Cynthia's response was hesitant, her voice laced with a mix of emotions. She told Phillips that she was managing, but her eyes told a different story. Phillips could see the weariness and struggle etched on her face, and he felt a pang of guilt and regret. As they talked, Phillips learned more about Cynthia's life after university. He discovered that she had dropped out of school to support him, sacrificing her own dreams and ambitions for his benefit. Phillips felt a wave of shame wash over him, realizing that he had taken her sacrifices for granted. He had been so focused on his own goals and aspirations that he had neglected her needs and feelings. Cynthia's story was one of struggle and resilience. She had worked multiple jobs to make ends meet, but she had never given up on her dreams. Phillips was touched by her strength and determination, and he felt a deep sense of admiration for her. He realized that he had underestimated her, and that she was more than just a supportive partner. As they talked, Phillips and Cynthia began to reconnect, their conversation flowing easily. They reminisced about their time in university, and Phillips learned more about Cynthia's aspirations and dreams. He realized that he had been so focused on his own goals that he had neglected her needs and feelings. He had taken her love and support for granted, and he knew that he had to make things right. The encounter between Phillips and Cynthia was a turning point in their relationship. It marked the beginning of a journey of self-discovery and redemption, as Phillips confronted the consequences of his choices and the impact on their relationship. He knew that he had to make amends for the past, and to prove his love and commitment to Cynthia. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the city, Phillips knew that he had to take action. He asked Cynthia if she would be willing to meet him again, to talk more about their past and their future. Cynthia hesitated, unsure of what to expect, but Phillips's sincerity and kindness won her over. She agreed to meet him, and Phillips felt a sense of hope and renewal. The stage was set for a new chapter in Phillips and Cynthia's relationship, one that would be marked by challenges, revelations, and growth. As they parted ways, Phillips couldn't shake off the feeling that their encounter was more than just a coincidence. It was a chance to redeem himself, to make amends for the past, and to build a better future. The encounter between Phillips and Cynthia had sparked a chain of events that would change their lives forever. It had marked the beginning of a journey of self-discovery and redemption, as Phillips confronted the consequences of his choices and the impact on their relationship. As Phillips rode in the car, he felt a sense of anticipation and excitement, knowing that their story was far from over. As Phillips rode in the car, he couldn't shake off the feeling that their encounter was more than just a coincidence. He felt a sense of responsibility and guilt, knowing that he had taken Cynthia's sacrifices for granted. He realized that he had been so focused on his own goals and aspirations that he had neglected her needs and feelings. The more Phillips thought about it, the more he realized that he had been living in a bubble. He had been so caught up in his own world that he had forgotten about the people around him. He had taken Cynthia's love and support for granted, and he knew that he had to make things right. As the car pulled up to Phillips's mansion, he felt a sense of unease. He knew that he had to confront the consequences of his choices, and to face the reality of his relationship with Cynthia. He got out of the car and walked into his house, his mind preoccupied with thoughts of the past and the future. Phillips spent the rest of the day in contemplation, thinking about his relationship with Cynthia and the choices he had made. He realized that he had been selfish and short-sighted, and that he had hurt the person he loved most. He knew that he had to make amends for the past, and to prove his love and commitment to Cynthia. As the sun set over the city, Phillips felt a sense of determination and purpose. He knew that he had to take action, to make things right with Cynthia and to rebuild their relationship. He picked up his phone and sent her a text, asking her to meet him again the next day. Cynthia received Phillips's text and felt a mix of emotions. She was unsure of what to expect, but she was willing to give him another chance. She replied to his text, agreeing to meet him the next day. The next day, Phillips and Cynthia met at a quiet cafe in the city. They sat down at a table, and Phillips began to open up about his feelings and regrets. He told Cynthia that he was sorry for taking her for granted, and that he wanted to make things right. Cynthia listened to his words, her eyes filled with a mix of emotions. As they talked, Phillips and Cynthia began to confront the consequences of their choices. They discussed the past and the present, and they began to rebuild their relationship. Phillips was determined to make things right, and to prove his love and commitment to Cynthia. The road ahead would not be easy, but Phillips and Cynthia were determined to face the challenges together. They knew that their relationship would require effort and commitment, but they were willing to work together to build a better future. As they parted ways, Phillips felt a sense of hope and renewal. He knew that he had a long way to go, but he was determined to make things right with Cynthia. He realized that their relationship was worth fighting for, and he was willing to do whatever it took to rebuild their love and trust. The encounter between Phillips and Cynthia had sparked a chain of events that would change their lives forever. It had marked the beginning of a journey of self-discovery and redemption, as Phillips confronted the consequences of his choices and the impact on their relationship. As Phillips rode home, he felt a sense of anticipation and excitement. He knew that their story was far from over, and he was eager to see what the future held. He realized that he had a chance to redeem himself, to prove his love and commitment to Cynthia, and to build a better future together. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges and obstacles, but Phillips was determined to overcome them. He knew that he had to be patient, understanding, and supportive, and to prove his love and commitment to Cynthia. He was willing to do whatever it took to rebuild their relationship, and to create a brighter future together. As Phillips and Cynthia continued to meet and talk, they began to rebuild their relationship. Phillips was determined to make things right, and to prove his love and commitment to Cynthia. He listened to her, and he learned more about her feelings and needs. He realized that he had been selfish and short-sighted, and that he had hurt the person he loved most. Cynthia, on the other hand, was cautious but hopeful. She had been hurt by Phillips's actions, but she still loved him. She wanted to believe that he had changed, and that he was committed to making things right. As they talked, she began to see a different side of Phillips, a side that was vulnerable and sincere. The road to redemption was not easy. There were many challenges and obstacles that Phillips and Cynthia had to overcome. They had to confront the consequences of their choices, and to face the reality of their relationship. But they were determined to make things work, and to build a better future together. As they navigated the complexities of their relationship, Phillips and Cynthia began to realize that they had been given a second chance. They had a chance to redeem themselves, and to prove their love and commitment to each other. They were determined to make the most of it, and to build a relationship that was stronger and more resilient. Phillips and Cynthia's journey was not without its challenges. There were many times when they felt like giving up, when the obstacles seemed insurmountable. But they persevered, and they continued to work on their relationship. They communicated openly and honestly, and they made a conscious effort to understand each other's needs and feelings. As the days turned into weeks, Phillips and Cynthia's relationship began to flourish. They had their disagreements, but they were able to work through them. They had a deep understanding of each other, and they were committed to making things work. Phillips realized that he had been given a second chance, and he was determined to make the most of it. He was patient, understanding, and supportive, and he proved his love and commitment to Cynthia. He knew that he had to earn back her trust, and he was willing to do whatever it took to rebuild their relationship. Cynthia, on the other hand, was slowly beginning to trust Phillips again. She saw the effort he was putting into their relationship, and she appreciated his sincerity. She knew that she had a choice to make, and she chose to give their relationship another chance. As Phillips and Cynthia continued on their journey, they encountered many challenges and obstacles. But they faced them together, as a team. They knew that their relationship was worth fighting for, and they were determined to make it work. The road to redemption was long and difficult, but Phillips and Cynthia were determined to reach their destination. They knew that it wouldn't be easy, but they were willing to do whatever it took to rebuild their relationship and to create a brighter future together. As Phillips and Cynthia continued on their journey, they began to realize that they had been given a second chance. They had a chance to redeem themselves, and to prove their love and commitment to each other. They were determined to make the most of it, and to build a relationship that was stronger and more resilient. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. Phillips and Cynthia's relationship continued to flourish. They had their disagreements, but they were able to work through them. They had a deep understanding of each other, and they were committed to making things work. Phillips was patient, understanding, and supportive. He proved his love and commitment to Cynthia, and he earned back her trust. He knew that he had to be consistent in his actions, and to show Cynthia that he was committed to their relationship. Cynthia, on the other hand, was slowly beginning to heal. She had been hurt by Phillips's actions, but she was willing to give their relationship another chance. She saw the effort Phillips was putting into their relationship, and she appreciated his sincerity. As the months went by, Phillips and Cynthia's relationship continued to grow. They were happy, and they were in love. They knew that they had been given a second chance, and they were determined to make the most of it. One day, Phillips decided to take Cynthia on a surprise trip. He planned a romantic getaway to a beautiful beach resort. He wanted to show Cynthia how much he loved and appreciated her. Cynthia was thrilled when Phillips surprised her with the trip. She had always wanted to visit the beach, and she was excited to spend some quality time with Phillips. The trip was a huge success. Phillips and Cynthia spent their days lounging on the beach, and their nights enjoying romantic dinners. They talked and laughed, and they reconnected on a deeper level. Phillips realized that he had made the right decision in taking Cynthia on the trip. It was exactly what they needed to take their relationship to the next level. As they sat on the beach, watching the sunset, Phillips turned to Cynthia and said, "I love you. I'm so grateful to have you in my life." Cynthia smiled, and she replied, "I love you too. I'm grateful to have you in my life as well." Phillips and Cynthia's relationship continued to flourish. They were happy, and they were in love. They knew that they had been given a second chance, and they were determined to make the most of it. Years went by, and Phillips and Cynthia's relationship continued to grow. They faced many challenges and obstacles, but they always found a way to overcome them. They knew that their relationship was worth fighting for, and they were determined to make it work. Phillips and Cynthia's story was one of redemption and love. They had been given a second chance, and they had made the most of it. They had built a relationship that was stronger and more resilient, and they were grateful for every moment they spent together. As they looked back on their journey, Phillips and Cynthia knew that they had come a long way. They had faced many challenges, but they had always found a way to overcome them. They knew that their relationship was worth fighting for, and they were grateful for every moment they spent together. Phillips and Cynthia's love story was one for the ages. It was a story of redemption, love, and commitment. They had been given a second chance, and they had made the most of it. They had built a relationship that was strong, resilient, and filled with love.